Sunday GUNDAY.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's so dumb.
But it's funny.
What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things, and believe it or not, this is one of the most requested guns that I get here on the channel, the Taurus PT111, or the newest iteration of it, the G2C. Why is that funny? Now, I've steered clear of this gun for a while on the channel because, as you guys probably know, I don't really care for products that are commonly known as a budget option. The G2C definitely fits into that category, coming in at around the $200 mark, but today we're gonna give it a shot, so let's take a deep dive, closer look at this thing and see what it's all about. Taurus renamed the PT111 Millennium G2 as the G2C for some pretty obvious reasons. They really haven't changed a whole lot, but the G2C is way easier to say than that old mouthful. This is a subcompact striker-fired double-stack 9mm offering 12+1 capacity. It has everything that you would expect and nothing that you wouldn't. Rear serrations, white 3-dot sights, a small accessory rail up front, and some texturing on the grip that surprisingly feels pretty nice. There are the typical safeties like the trigger, which honestly feels a little intrusive with my first hands on. And there's a loaded chamber indicator on top and an external thumb safety on the side, which could be nice if you are a right-handed shooter. So other than those specs, this is basically one of those guns that I hold in my hand and go, yup, it's a gun. One of the things that I found kind of funny is that they actually named this little pad on the side of the gun where you can index your finger. They call it the Taurus Memory Pad, and I'm just glad that they didn't actually brand that on there like some other manufacturers with their ridiculous naming conventions. XD. The grip zone. Where do I grip the gun at? Now, since this is a very budget-friendly gun, it was loaned to me from my friends at Panda Tactical, and they said once I'm done shooting it and reviewing it for you guys, I can actually give it away to one of you watching out there. So stay tuned to the end of the video for more information on that. You guys can get a head start by liking this video and making sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Now, given the price point on the G2C, I really don't have a whole lot of high expectations, but I'm not gonna knock it from the start. I will, however, be comparing this to some other similarly priced guns on the market right now, like the High Point C9 and the Smith & Wesson SD9VE. What is it? Yeah, it's the SD9VE. That's another terrible naming convention. Basically, if this thing feels okay and it functions firing without a hiccup, then it might get a pass in my book, but the only way to find out about that is to shoot it, so let's go put some rounds downrange.
Well, it's got a good range of 30 to 45 feet. And I would prefer throwing it like a frisbee.
I'm pretty sure it's also hydrodynamic. We go throw it in a pond.
This is recording right now. All right, we're gonna give this a shot. The first 12-round magazine here, loaded up with some 115 grain 9mm. There you can see the little raised red loaded chamber indicator, so I know there's a round in there. I don't need to press check it. All right, guys, back for my first mag impression of the Taurus G2C. We're off to a good start. Every time I pulled the trigger, the thing went off and it seemed to be relatively accurate from the start. The first thing that I notice is that I'm already not a huge fan of the ergonomics. The grip angle feels okay. I actually do like the texturing on here, like I mentioned earlier. When I point this thing out, it feels okay. The only thing that I wish is that I could get a higher purchase on the gun. It fills up my hand pretty nicely. My hands are on the larger side, but I just wish that I could kind of get up a little bit closer to that slide. Now, this thing isn't sitting significantly higher over my hand, so it still does feel balanced, but I definitely think this thing would feel a little bit better with a higher beaver tail cut into that. Now, I know I was kind of poking fun at the naming convention of this little memory pad here, but I definitely like it. I'm always indexing my gun and obviously practicing proper firearm safety, so it is kind of nice having that thing to put your finger on. As far as the controls go, I can definitely actuate the safety if I wanted to. That is probably something that I would never use though. And then moving down to the trigger safety, that is something that I already mentioned feels sort of intrusive, and I will get to how the trigger actually feels in the end, but I can absolutely feel that safety safety blade all throughout the trigger pull, so that's another thing that I'm not too keen on. The slide stop lever, I can definitely actuate that with my thumb. With an unloaded mag in there, it's obviously going to be a little bit difficult, but when that is unloaded, I can definitely reach there and close that slide. The magazine button is definitely on the smaller side, but I can still actuate it with my thumb without actually changing my grip. Because it is that small, I sort of have to poke at it with my thumb, but that's not something I'm going to knock it for. The texturing of the grip is nice, and I do like the little extension that they put on the bottom of the magazine there. It fills up my hand just enough that I feel like I have a good control and grip of this gun. And although I wish my hand was higher on the slide, I can still mitigate recoil pretty well with that little pinky extension. As far as the slide goes, I'll start from the top down. The sights are okay, the rear is adjustable. They are plastic sights, so that is something that you would probably want to swap out, but if you're spending $200 on a gun, basically you just want it to function, and so far this one is. One thing about swapping out sights on this is that it obviously does not have the aftermarket support like some other guns do, like Smith & Wesson and Glock. So if you are looking to upgrade or replace anything on here, it is definitely going to be a little more difficult than some other manufacturers. The serrations on the back are definitely effective. I have no complaints about that. No front serrations, but that is not a huge deal when this thing is only coming in at $200. The accessory rail, that is definitely a good touch. If they would have left that out of there, it definitely would have taken points off, because you are comparing this to other guns in the same type of form factor that can absolutely accept some different accessories on the front. And then one thing that I actually don't really mind, but some people knock guns like this for, is the loaded chamber indicator. I don't find that to be intrusive at all. Some people will say that it's another like mechanical part that could fail, but I actually don't mind seeing that on there. Some other guns have a like peephole so you can actually see the round inside of the chamber. I typically just end up press checking my guns if I want to know the condition of it, but I've had guns in the past with that loaded chamber indicator, and that is actually going to get an extra point from me. I say point like I'm doing this on a point system. I should start doing point systems for guns. Now, other than those first impressions, I'm definitely going to be comparing this thing a lot to the Hi-Point C9, like I said, and right now, hands down, I would absolutely take the G2C over a Hi-Point. I think this gun fits a more standard form factor, and you could compare it to some better competition out there, but this is definitely a class a little bit above a Hi-Point in my opinion. Now, I'm going to save the rest of my thoughts on this thing until the end, but I do have a bunch of ammo to put through it, so let's test it out a little bit more, and then I'll come back for my final thoughts. Mag. Whoop. Ugh. Not liking that target. All right, I'm back here now at about 45 yards. I'll see how this thing does in the accuracy department. Not too terrible, I guess. Now we're back at about 60 yards. All right, I definitely cannot shoot this gun as well as some others. All right guys, now we're gonna do something I typically never do, and that is actually shoot at paper to show you guys how this thing shoots. I'm going to keep my point of aim the same throughout all of this, and I will see what the grouping looks like. I'm also going to grab another gun that I'm more familiar with for a comparison. All right, we got a fresh target up now, 12 rounds loaded into my Glock 17. All right, as you guys can see, here are the two targets. I have the Taurus on this side, the Glock 17 on this side. I did end up pulling 2 shots because I was shooting kind of quick there, but just to prove a point, you're gonna be better at shooting what you train with. I am shooting a little left and low, which can be corrected by your grip, but I'm not here to instruct you guys on how to shoot. Take all that information for what it's worth. Let's do one more for good measure. This one's for the patrons. All right guys, back for my final thoughts on the Taurus G2C. Right from the bat, you're probably gonna think that I'm going to say bad things about it, but I'm actually not. The gun performed, it functioned flawlessly. There are some things that I would prefer a little bit different, but overall, you can't really complain for a $200 gun that functions flawlessly. Granted, I really only put maybe 100 rounds down or so, and I'm definitely not going to be long-term testing a gun like this, but I know there are some people out there who trust their lives using these guns, and if that's something that you're into, if you shoot this thing well, then good, the gun is serving its purpose. One thing that I definitely want to talk about a little bit is this trigger, which I'm not a fan of. I don't know many people that are fans of this trigger. Now in the close-up here, you can see that when I put my finger on that safety blade there, it stays exposed the entire time all the way back to the wall. Actually, I guess it doesn't work until you're back at the wall. That is weird. Okay, so typically a trigger safety like that, the trigger does not really move until you get that blade out of the way, but this one, it moves, but if you don't have your finger on the blade, it'll actually stop it there. Then you have to have it depressed in order for the gun to fire. That's kind of weird. I'm not a big fan of that. But like I said in the beginning, it is sort of intrusive because it doesn't move out of the way the entire time through the trigger pull. But anyway, this is how this trigger actually feels. There's a whole lot of nothing right here. It really doesn't feel like anything. There's a little bit of a bind sort of in the middle there, but there's no like spring tension or anything. It's just kind of loose. Once you get past that first little click right there, I'm still not really sure what that is, you will eventually find the wall. And right now the trigger is very far back in the trigger guard. Once it breaks like all the way to the back to the grip of the gun. There are some other guns that sort of feel like this, and people are gonna hate me for making this comparison, but that is sort of the way my USP trigger feels. That is probably one of the reasons why I am not shooting this thing very accurately. I much prefer a trigger to break at least like maybe 3/4 of the way through the pull. This one doesn't break until you are all the way in the back there, and then it presses up against the grip. After you get that break, the reset, it's, you can hear that Glock trigger more than this. After you get that reset, it is tactile and audible. I don't think the trigger is terrible. There are just some things that are very unlike any other trigger. Now, if this was the only gun that I had and I had to get used to this, then yeah, I think the trigger would be fine. And the gun works. I mean, 200 bucks, it fired every round. If you train with it, you will probably be more accurate than you saw me shooting here. But that is not what I'm going to do with this gun because I just prefer other options. Once you get that break, you also have this weird sort of double action pull on there, and it sounds like the striker is actually firing. I'm not even gonna dig into that anymore because I don't really have anything to say about that. What else is there to say about this? What would you ask me about this gun? How much more is the next best option? So let me just say this, if I only had $200 to spend, I would absolutely opt for the G2C over the High Point. Now, if I could find the Smith & Wesson SD9VE If I could find that around the exact same price point, I believe it's a little bit more, I would definitely opt for that. I've shot that gun in the past and the trigger is definitely not the greatest. You cannot compare it to a 2.0 trigger, but I think I would opt for that over this. I don't plan on doing a video on that one either. The MC1 that I reviewed a few weeks back is definitely comparable. However, it is in a different sort of category. This is double stack where that is single stack. Price point wise, if I'm looking for a gun to conceal and I was okay with a lower round count, I would definitely go with the MC1 SC, just because the trigger on that thing is actually very good. Mossberg did a good job on that. Now, even if this gun had a different manufacturer's name on here, like if it was coming from Smith & Wesson, I still don't feel like I'm being biased here. I really just, there's a lot of things that I don't prefer on this gun. I really am trying to give this thing a fair chance, and so far I think I have. At that price point, I think you are getting what you pay for, and you're getting a good option for what you pay for. I can really only keep going back to comparing this to the High Point, and it's not even in the same category. It's not fair. This thing is way better than a High Point. I'm not really sure what else you guys would want to know as far as my opinions go on this gun. I can't really think of anything else. I feel like I covered a lot of it. So please let me know in the comments down below. I know this gun was very requested, and if you want my thoughts of comparing this to something sort of similar, then leave those in the comments and I will try to get back to you. Other than that, I guess it is time to talk about this giveaway. If you guys want this exact gun, the one that you saw me just shoot here on Sunday Gun Day, all you have to do is go over to my Instagram and like the photo of this G2C. Make sure you are following both myself and Panda Tactical, who made this video possible, on Instagram. And then just tag 2 friends in the comments below that picture, and then I will pick a winner in about a week. Keep in mind, you will have to be of legal age to own a firearm like this, so 21 and older in America. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll pick a winner at the end of next week, and I will send this to your local gun dealer. All right, I think that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my thoughts and opinions on this. Just trying to be honest here. Please don't attack me in the comment section. If you are new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe. I make new videos every week, and that is going to be all for today. So as always, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one.